now. So I think he listens.
Good.
Slave. My business. You know, are we live already?
Ladies and gentlemen.
We have to repeat a few minutes.
Okay.
I don't need a cipher.
I still haven't even gotten to the second grade of
That's not a new tea, is it?
No, that's old one. Do you want a new one?
Yeah, it gets here. It's too hard to go back.
Maybe two.
One. It's crazy. Totally crazy.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. So I guess I'm fine, right? Or do I need to make another I guess?
Geffen. What repair Geffen? Fine. You're not miss out like that from drinking?
I mean, I was thinking
That
the
doesn't
whole.
matter.
No? So let me see what my iPad works too.
Was it this one?
Oh, there it is.
It's right here.
Rabbi, I wanted to ask, if someone says hamotzi and eats a little bit of bread without netilat yadayim, being like la halacha, not like against us, and he wants to like do it for, he doesn't see again or no?
I mean, he was eating pachot mikazayit.
Should he make a bracha on Tilat Yadayim when he's
Sure.
going to? I mean, first he would wash without.
He's going to eat now more than a kazayit.
So should he without Yadayim?
It's mitzareh?
Hmm?
It's mitzareh?
No, of course not.
In a way, if he kept his hands clean from the first Natila.
He didn't do any netilat.
What?
He didn't do any netilat.
Yeah, it's fine. I just want
He ate less than a kazayit.
I don't deserve it. Wash without a bracha, like the Mishnah said what you should do. Before the.
So that's not what he was asking.
Then it's more of a shot, right?
Yeah, you can't wash again if your hands are.
You can wash, maybe.
That's the whole problem of the going to the bathroom. How to be neutral in such a way that won't be it's for one, will be it's for the other. So, I think. Oh, still a little.
How much does the netilah have to do with the roof itself?
A
Like,
lot.
let's say you're in a,
Your mopsit?
no, you're not mafsed, but let's say you're in a party. And like they have like in the beginning, you do netilat yadayim over there, and then
But
you go into a different
That's
like,
very good. You don't have to make a new bracha on the food either.
You don't have to, right?
Right, because you're kaveya sudav.
But like, let's say with the sukkah, you have to do Netilat Yadayim
The
5.
Sfaradim go according to the Mechaber in terms of if everybody goes out.
Right, and
The Ashkenazim go like the Ramah.
even if everyone goes out, they still do
Right.
the Brahma.
Because he learns only you weren't Kovea Suda.
But like with the sukkah, you have to be motel by the sukkah.
Right. No, the Ramah passes. It's Machlokas, right? I don't understand whether it's going on. Because the question was referring back to the one that are Kovea Mokom, the one that are not Kovea Mokom. It's Machlokas, so what happened? Can we begin? Hello?
It's so good.
It's ridiculous.
That chocolate cake.
It's
It's brownie cake.
no. We ought to call the police.
It's like dangerous. Wow, I couldn't stop.
Yeah, it's
And I'm really on postcard.
it's really, I think it's against the law. No? It's coercive and all kinds of things. It's like, drugging someone and then sleeping with them.
Okay.
There's laws against that. Oh, you got so much cake.
No, I watched.
What? Yeah. You're eating more bread? Oh, God.
I was hungry.
Wow.
Still am.
Chanuka isn't over.
Do I have time?
Don't give me any. Give me first piece, okay? I should get another one younger.
Yeah, you bench. I'll be thinking.
Okay, we'll hold it and really wet too. Guys, you know you're on camera. I'm joking. You were on camera though.
It was amazing with the coffee.
Guys, the cake is amazing with everything.
We got a whole new side to it.
Personally,
No joke.
I'm dying.
what's
Oh.
I've got to explain it.
I don't know.
Which
Which one?
No.
Okay, but anything else you want to tell?
He's not gonna watch.
Yes.
And one thing about that is like gorgeous lady, like that, that ladylikeness, like just that perfection ladylikeness.
Yeah.
Like Daisy, from the movie.
Yeah.
That like just that like elegant sweetness. So I said he has to watch it. And the ostrich said it was a good movie. Ethan said no, and now he's not watching it.
What?
I
No.
literally couldn't breathe for like 30 seconds.
Let's read the book first. Read the book first. Oh, get the book and read it.
I feel like I'm
Shoot.
She stops
You
that.
say it's good. Book then movie. Really? Yeah. Normally bad. I would really feel so much movie actually. I know it's always yes, it's gonna be a I would watch it.
I don't know.
Always watch it. And it's like no, like I clicked like a few times, like skipped a bit, like just clicked random 3 places in the movie and like still look good. I was like, oh my god, it's crazy. So good.
But also the portrayals, I think also reading the book would help too, because the connections between the book and the themes and just like the elements of the book that come out there.
Next level. And the movie is just next level. And the music is just insane. You love it.
I'm just serious.
No, it's not unstable. Reminds you, I don't know.
People made fun of my name too.
Until you did
It's an interesting name.
Barnea comes out backwards and upside down.
No, I missed the beginning of the conversation. I wasn't being honest. I missed the beginning. I think of the cake and the fact that the start of that one, but start at one. Among other
לא, הייתי שומע.
Yeah, I'm still typing.
You have 2 viewers, so.
It's down to one. Well, it doesn't mean it doesn't.
It's only the people who are registered.
To part 2 of our, I suppose we could call it part 1 of the Chanuka part, but anyway, you may have noticed there was a pretty long first part, which introduced a lot of the issues that are going to be part of our discussion of both Miketz and of the Inyanim of Chanuka. And it relates very much to the period of the year, as we spoke about last week. But this is, as the Gemara in Avodah Zarah says, this is the time of the darkness of the year which became a celebration when Adam Rishon recognized it for what it was. At this time of the year, we made a holiday after having gone into Avelis originally because of it, the holiday that became the Saturnalia, and that became Christmas, that became the New Year and the renewal of the year for the Goyim, and which for us eventually became the Gilui, the Aragonos of Chanuka, Lahavdil. And this descent into darkness that the Gemara in Seta speaks about so horrifyingly, in which each generation, Ein Yom Shem Kilalato Meruba Mechavreta, this is a period of, after the Churban, we talk about in terms of individuals, and how the loss of a particular individual was the loss of an idea, was the loss of an or. That was Yitzias Tzadik Min HaMakom. We speak about the loss of Tahira and the loss of the Zroya Satira and of the nature of Kedusha and the loss of Chasidus and the loss of Yiraschet, and the loss of Anivas, and so on and so forth. And each one of these losses seems to be an irreplaceable descent into darkness, closing up, just as the closing up of the year, closing up of the potential, even of Klal Yisrael. And the refrain throughout the Gemaras you're all aware of, Ami lanu lishaen, ein lanu ami lishaen. There's nothing to rely on, nobody to rely on, just on HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself, Alavinu Shabbat Shamayim. And the question of how it's possible to go into the Gemara and so it was Scott took, that was Scott saying. There was the Gemara Relations Gemara, it was here a minute ago. Ramesh, where your Gemara say that you put it back in the line?
I didn't touch it. No, it was somewhere around here.
Everyone just uses it. No, it's fine. Try to move from it after. Yeah, it must be the ticket bag. So that in the end, the Gemara remarkably says, and it's amazing, it's part of a vision of life that we've almost forgotten. The Gemara says, and what indeed is the Elam still miskayim in such a situation? Meaning as we're going from step to step into a darkness, the question is how can we continue to go? And this is so amazing, it was so real, not only at the time of the Gemara, but as recently as 100 years ago. That the Gemara says the only thing that we can rely on is on Kedusha Sidra. Amazing. Kedusha Sidra is the Uvolatzion Gadol. We see at the end. And the Kaddish that comes at the end, a little bit of learning that they do in Chayk Yisrael. So there's the Kaddish, the Rabbanan that is said at the end of the little shir that they have in Agadata every day. It's hard for us to even imagine what that means. When you say V'ata Kadosh Yeshev Klas Yisrael, you say Kedusha as part of a Seder after the Tefillah with a Targum, a little bit of Tefillah about not living for nothing, and a few seconds of learning a day. That Targum, those Psukim, Avuvolatzion Goyal, which we say together with the Targum, we're Yotze then afterwards, they got a little bit of Limud, Mikra, Mishnah, Gemara, and so on. That's the kiyum of the whole oil. It's hard for us to relate to that because we don't remember what it was like. But the fact is that there were so many millions of Jewish lives that survived, literally, only because of that. I mean, even here, when I first got there, it's Israel, the Seder Hayom, what it was to survive. I remember my uncle here in Meir Sharon. The poverty that is difficult for us to conceive of, the darkest of poverty. No private bathrooms, public bathrooms outside. And the Seder Hayom of the work that you have to do in order just to be misparnas enough to be able to survive. So literally, this is a man, I mean, by the time I got here to Eretz Yisrael, he was already in the 70s. And, Uncle Avram, my Uncle Avram in Sharon, he was nifter only in 82 when we got here that year. That's what he was nifter. So it was like 53 years ago. So it was amazing man. But this was the life of a Jew. We'd come back, totally exhausted from work as a chicken factory. We do just take the feathers off of chickens and kind of all day long getting these kids and so. As they're pronounced, they come back. There's no light. A little bit of primus. You heat up a kerosene stove, get enough to be able to have a cup of tea. There's no kitchen in the house, obviously. It's also public and outside. And, so you get to sleep, up at 2 o'clock in the morning, mikvah, go to learn. You don't have any idea what you're talking about. Say Kaddish at the end of the learning. And by that time it's already night, and you're davening, and by 6 o'clock in the morning you're already at work, back again. This is the life of a Jew. And what keeps the person going? And those kind of entire shtetla. What keeps you going? This is what keeps you going. The unbelievable And the unbelievable difference in the life that we sense of the growing towards to Geula. I mean, what a change from the Kedusha to Sidra, the amount of learning that we take for granted that, is meant to be ours, we have a right to be ours. And growing wherever you look, everything growing, the potential connections. That Kadosh Baruch Hu, the sense of the possibilities is enormous. And yet, on the other hand, there's still a tremendous feeling about deepening darkness, a darkness of either minus mamish, which Chanuka is all about, or the equivalent in terms of the Avodah Zarah belief systems that are so rochak. And of course, that becomes part of the story of Miketz, or the story of all of these parshas, is the story of a belief system, which is expressed over here. The breakdown of the shlichus of Yisrael to Yosef is because of, as the Malach Gabriel tells him, and as the Zohar explains, Dosan. Your brothers are not Kishran, and Nasumizim, because of that they're not even brothers. And they have gone to Dosan. And as we saw, Dosan means, as Rashi says, it's we would say in English, dot town. It's basically, it's a mokum in which people are able to live inside their little religious bubbles. And then they went to be mevakesh l'chad nichle datot. They came to figure out ways in which they could pervert everything so that it would be right to destroy you. And that you can't fight, that you can't argue with. And that amazingly becomes the incredible struggle that Yosef has over here. And that's a very, very deep chosha. Amazing struggle that occurs over here. And as we saw in the Gemara, the way that it's brought out, we gave a share on this, but I didn't go through in such detail the Gemara, but the way that it's brought out is the story of Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish. It's an amazing story. And we called it the glass ceiling, I think, a few years ago. Was it last year? Yeah. But there's an invisible barrier to, there's a point at which you reach, in which you keep thinking that you've reached the end of the way in which you need to get in order to be able to find a tikkun. And of course, the whole meaning of Chanuka is the idea of reaching an aragonus in which that entire personal interpretation, you're able to break through that barrier. And the barrier here is so immensely powerful. It's very similar to the barrier of the Dotans of Yameinu, entire bubbles, entire cities, entire philosophies, entire movements. And that becomes the emes nederes, the emes becomes adorim, and it ends up becoming botel levuto. The Gemara says elsewhere, it's the sects that is emes nederes. And then those sects become entire cities in which we live within a bubble and can live with the most incredible hypocrisies and darkness, and I believe that you're living in the midst of the most amazing illusion of light and happiness. No matter what evidence is brought against you, you see your children going out the top of this road, and you see the distance of the world that you create from the world that you believe in. You see the crises that affect you on every sha'al, literally. Families falling apart, and the impossibility of parnasa, no shidduchim, and children on the edge, and no meaning to chinuch, and the cynicism, and the growing bitterness about the entire vision of what this dosan is, makes absolutely no difference. And it's this that Yosef HaTzadik is up against, because, as the Zohar says, what a mistake he made. To take the shlichus to Shrem and to go to Dosan. V'nei to'eh b'derech, says the Zohar. To'eh? You know what to'eh means? What do you think it means? He lost his GPS signal. He was to'eh b'kol. It was so completely, it was inconceivable for him to think that such a thing was possible. But much as it was impossible 50 years ago to imagine the state that we would be in today, which call Yom Kippur, in terms of this darkness, he couldn't conceive of it to Makol. Assume that you could take the Shlichus of Yisrael, that's Mehetz Chanuka, and you'll move on to, you move to Lakewood. What's the difference? You'll manage there also, and you'll talk to people, explain to them, and communication, breaks through all barriers. Very, very difficult lesson to learn. And when he saw that, he recognized the only thing that was possible to do was what he did. That he needed to create the possibility of breaking through that glass ceiling. So as we saw in the first part, that ceiling expressed itself in what the brothers understood of the relationship of Yaakov and Yosef, from what they understood, which to Yosef, when he was sharing his dreams, he was sharing himself. He was providing them with an individual of the utmost vulnerability. And that's what Yisrael did. Yisrael, we mentioned, I think, last week. And this is the latest James Bond movie. Which is what Bond does. He wants to get the information. The guy doesn't trust him. He takes out his gun and he gives it to him. I don't trust your words. This is my word. He hands him his gun. That's exactly what happens over here. Yisrael sends Yosef, but you don't trust me. You don't trust him. Here he is, completely vulnerable. Do to him whatever you think. If you think that I have plans to protect him against you, here he is. I'm sending him to you. And Yosef is stripped bare. And that's all that they do is they continue to strip him. And Vayavshitu, and it makes absolutely no difference to them. They see that as a meta level manipulation, in which it only goes to show even more how much he's willing to risk in order to be Moshel. Gilo should be a Moshel Tim Shoban. And what we saw, an amazing Gemara in Tainus, that brings out the power of this particular sense of a glass ceiling. It's an unbelievable story of Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish. The first part of the story of Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish is the Gemara in Bava Metzia, which describes the interrelationship of two people. Very much also, it's interesting that the Gemara ends in Satan. These type people invest in other people. The people invest in this story. Ravuna investing in his grandson, right? You invest your whole life in somebody. And then, you say, okay, now he's grown up, but could you bring me a cup of tea? You ain't my daddy. Go get somebody else to bring you some tea. It becomes like the Gemara statement, a parent invests in a child, but the child, he invests in his own child. He doesn't care about you. And that's the reality of it. So what happens over there is we had this amazing relationship between Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish. It was such a powerful relationship that, and it starts also in a very Yosef-tic way, because Rabbi Yochanan is very beautiful, and Rish Lakish thinks he's a girl and jumps after him into the water. And Rish Lakish at that point was a highway robber, and he was going to rape him. And then it turns out that it's a him and not a her after all. So, even the Arabs with 72 virgins, it might not be good enough for them to have Rabbi Yochanan. So Rabbi Yochanan says to him, but it's okay, I have a sister who's even more beautiful than me. He said, I'll give you my sister. Oh, I see, like, your energy is incredible. I love that energy. I can imagine today. I love that energy. Would you marry my sister? Okay, anyway, so the whole thing develops. He marries his sister with the understanding he'll be coming to learn. He'll come to learn by Rabbi Yochanan. And this goes on for many years until the relationship became so amazing relationship. And Shlokish, anybody knows, the Gemara knows what that interrelationship gave forth in terms of Paris and creativity. Anyway, it comes to a moment in which they have a machloket, which is clear that Rabbi Yochanan sensed that in a matter of judgment, that Rish Lakish was not bending his judgment to learn anymore from Rabbi Yochanan. So they were arguing about the din of the Markelim with Sakinim. So Rabbi Yochanan says to him, look, I guess it takes a murderer to know about weapons better than me. A mafioso ought to know more. Which was little bit insulting to Reish Lakish, you know. And instead of taking that as an impersonal comment, to be very personal, and he says to Rabbi Yochanan, yeah, I don't know what you think you ever did for me. You didn't do anything for me. When I was in the mafia, I was the godfather of the mafia. And now I'm in the Beis HaMedrash, I'm the godfather of the Beis HaMedrash. So it's not you, that's me. Rabbi Yochanan says, yeah, well, I didn't do anything for you except I was machdas you tachas kam ve'eshchina. I don't know what that means to you. In the end, Rabbi Yochanan ends up killing him. Falling tachlan, so they try to prevent him from falling tachlan, expressing his Chalisha Zadas, and his sister trusts. He makes a mistake with his Rosh Chodesh. Crazy story. In the end, he does say Tachanun. Reish Lakish dies. Fine. Okay. This story in Bava Metzia. Rabbi Yochanan goes nuts from the fact that Reish Lakish has died. He's running around and he's saying, Echanat Bar Lakish, Echanat Bar Lakish. They try to find him chavrusas that are as good as Reish Lakish, and all they're doing is bringing that. It's amazing because all they're doing is bringing riots to him, right? So he says, I don't need people to bring riots to me. When I used to learn what Reish Lakish used to show me how crazy I was, 24 different ways, would ask me questions, it was a pleasure. These idiots telling me I'm right. I know I'm right. But the whole point was that he was angry that you see that there's a difference in terms of where it's coming from, right? So does it become personal? There's some element there. Once something becomes personal, that becomes a matter of jealousy. Even though called Rav Mekaneh or Kol Adam Mekaneh Chutz Mi'ava B'no V'Rava Talmidei, something goes wrong where it becomes personal. And therefore, this thing has very much to do with that whole story. Now, we often don't realize that the Gemara in Tainis is a story that takes place in that period between the death of Reish Lakish and the end of the attempts to bring a new chavrusa to Rabbi Yochanan, which terminates in Rabbi Yochanan's own insanity, where he can't live any longer without Reish Lakish. He literally goes insane, he loses his mind. And the Beis HaMedrash, the Talmidim are mevakesh rachamim that he should die, because it was horrible to watch. And Rabbi Yochanan ends up dying from that story. So there's a brief period. During this brief period, he attempted to interrelate to his nephew, who was Reish Lakish's son. He was a little boy, Chanuka. So we have two stories. Right. So Rabbi Yochanan bumps into it. Says Ashker Rabbi Yochanan, Chanuka to Reish Lakish. He bumps into Reish Lakish's child. And he says to him, as was obvious a minute, then Emily Psukecha. What you learned today in school? So he says, I learned Aser ta Aser Komaz. So on. But what does it mean? I didn't explain it. What does it mean, Aser ta Aser? So Rabbi Yochanan says to him, Aser ta Aser means Aser b'shvil shetitasher. So give Meiser, that way you'll get rich. So the child says to him, how do you know? Says who? That's what it means. So Reish Lakish says to him, try it out. Rabbi Yochanan says to him, try it out, you'll see. So he says, what do you mean try it out? You don't have to try things out. Doesn't it say lo tanasut Hashem? You don't have to try out things. So he says, well, I'll tell you what Rabbi Oshaya said that's true about every mitzvah chutz mizu. Because on this mitzvah it says, Haviyu et kol ha'asar el beit ha'otzar yaterev bebeiti u'bechanuni no bezot amar Hashem tzvakotim lo aftach lachem et aruvot hashamayim barikoti lachem bracha ad b'lidai. Right? Now this kid is still in first grade. So he's just finishing Bereshis. He didn't get to learn all this stuff. Levim Achronim, he certainly never got to read. So the kid says to him, if I would have had a chance to learn that pasuk, because obviously then that's what it means. Think I need you and this guy Oshaya, your rabbi? Get out of here. Fine. So, okay, all right, fine, I mean, it's obvious already at that point that this kid was not doing too well with his relationship with Rabbi Yochanan after the story with his father's death and so on, right? But it's very chutzpah. Rabbi Yochanan doesn't react to this story. Then there's another story. What's the other story? So the other story is, so He meets him again. Verse 2, another time he meets the boy. And he tells him, and once again he says, okay. So he's learning. He says, well, what's the pasuk that he's saying over? He finds the boy saying the pasuk, which was very surprising because the last time he had met him, he said he was only in the first grade. He didn't know the pasuk. And now he was reading from Mishle. So here's the kid learning the pasuk. Yivelet Adam Yisalev Tisalev Darkov Al Hashem Yizaf Libo. So it's like a system. It's a system. It's a very fascinating pasuk. A person's own folly destroys his life. His perversions destroy his life. And then he's angry at the Lord. Always angry. Rabbi Yochanan says, it's like a reversal of the story, because now the kid is saying over the pasuk from Mishle. So Rabbi Yochanan says, how is it possible that there should be something in Mishle that doesn't have its marker in the Torah? And he's saying this to himself, you know. So the kid says, what are you talking about? Doesn't have the marker in the Torah. It's a fresh pasuk. In this story of Yosef and the brothers, right? So Yosef has planted the money into everybody's package. They open up this package. This is really this package of Levi. Oh my God. What is God doing to us? Says the kid. Isn't that the same thing? Sounds like a nice thing. Okay, yeah, it's pretty smart. So what happens? Dal Eine V'Chazabeh lifts up his eyes. Rabbi Yochanan had very long eyes. He had to lift up his eyes specifically to get a look at the kid. His mother comes running, his sister, grabs the kid and says, get the H out of here before he does to you what he did to your father. He didn't do anything wrong the first time. That was very chutzpahdik. This is like, what's the big deal about this person? So the truth is that this is an amazing, amazing story. I mean, the sensitivity of the people that are involved is just absolutely astonishing. Basically, it's obvious from the story, therefore, that Rabbi Yochanan had far more reason to respond in killing this kid just by looking at him with his look, right? This is the Gemara says. And the mother was scared. Because the point over here is that the statement makes no sense. Remember, again, you have to place it into, this is a review from the Parsha. You have to place it into the context of the events. The context of the events was that he had put into the Mishmar all of the brothers, and he said, he said, there's no way you're getting out of here, ever. 3 days later, he comes along and he says, I've changed my mind. Forget about Paro. I fear the Lord. Well, okay. So here he is, Mamish, making himself vulnerable to these guys. I mean, that's all they need. They go and they say he swears, and then he comes back and he says he cares about Elohim and Yareh. Well, okay, amazing story, which ends up being the reason that Yehuda trusts him and is willing to say to Yaakov Avinu, I pledge my life to this. And the Gemara says he pledged his life because he sensed that Yosef is real. Fine. But those 3 days that they were in the Mishmar, what was going on? So, as we said before, it was a direct challenge, bringing up Shem, the whole story, right? And it says beferish that Ish Elachiv starts talking about why this is happening to us. They don't say, what has God done to us? They say, you know why this is happening to us? Because of the fact that we saw the pain of our brother and we didn't respond. And there he was falling on the ground, holding our feet, the way the Medrash explains it, begging us to have mercy on him. And that level of Azarias was just horrific. And it's so meaningful to Yosef that Yosef goes into the other room and he cries. And, right? It's all broken up about it and so on. And like, this is a day later, or maybe that evening. He sends them off. They come at the hotel. And now, oh my God, Vayetzuli Bam. I mean, they're in utter shock. How could such a horrible thing have happened? What are you, crazy? What do you mean, how could such a horrible thing happen? What's the matter with you? You just said a few minutes ago yourselves. What do you think? Because you discovered it, so now it's all fixed? You think you're out of the pickle? You're still in the pickle, boy. You're in big trouble. You better do real tshuva, not just sitting around and saying, Aval Hashem Anachnu. What are you going to do about it? But to say, I'm in utter shock, this is ridiculous. Well, either God's crazy or I'm crazy. I mean, this is, how could such a thing have happened? Which is what people always do when they're faced with an impossible, according to their theory of the events, an impossible event. But why is this an impossible event? Now, what makes the thing much more wild is the fact that in the hotel, Levi is the only one who finds his money in the sack. Right? They then leave the hotel. They come back home. Vayhi merikim etzakihem. So now each person is emptying his stuff. And there, behold, v'hinei, discovering something. Everybody's kesef is in the sack. Not al piyam tachat, the way Levi's was. It says al piyam tachto. But over here, hidden deep inside the sack, but none of the others would have found it in the hotel. Only Levi, and indeed only Levi, found it. The others wait until they get home, and then they find it. And it says there, they and their father look at this, vayiro. They were afraid. Levi finds it, vayetzeli bum, they're going crazy. Oh my God. What is this? Then Vayetzeli Bam is shock, it's terror. And this is Nogei al Halacha in the Sefer. The Gemara makes the nafkamina between what level of terror you have to send the guy back away from the war front. Which even Rabbi Akiva's, everybody's mind that if it's terror of the Vayetzeli Bam, so then everybody's mind you have to send him off. Yeah, and Vayecharon. Mamish connected the story in the Sefer. And yeah, okay, they're afraid. I understand. So one person finds it, then it's the end of the world. Everybody finds it, then, wow, there's a problem. What do you do about this problem? That's not, by no means are they terrorized by it. Okay. And they're going back. They come back. This time they're coming back with Yisrael, of course, as I explained before. And they rush over to Menashe and they say, listen, something crazy happened, but we bought double the money back. We're paying you for every penny that we found. We all found kesef there we were. We came to the Malon. I mean, we know what to do. We came that night to the Malon, and all of us find their money and their packages, and we're bringing it back. Which would have never happened. They never all found their money, the packages in the Malon. Only Levi found the package in the Malon. As a matter of fact, it says Beferish, that there's a whole different story. And Yosef knew perfectly well, and they knew that he knew, because the money of Levi was put on top, and everybody's money was placed inside. So for them to lie, there must have been some very important reason for them to lie. And the problem is they make themselves look much worse. Because if they found it that night in the Malon, they should have said, so why didn't you come back and give the money if you found it? Like this, we're already all the way back in Eretz Canaan. I mean, what are we supposed to do? So they should have lied the other way. When we came home and we found the money, what are they saying? We all found our money in the thing in the Malon. I mean, it's a crazy story. Unless there's only one possible explanation. And this is the incredible explanation that the kid takes for granted, and that scares Rabbi Yochanan after that. The explanation is that in their minds, that's what happened. And they were telling the truth. So, I mean, how is that possible? What's it no game? Oh, it's very no game. Because what they had understood when they were in the Mishmar for 3 days was Aval Hashemim Anachnu, about what? Ra'inu tzarat achinu, v'yitchananu eleinu. There he was begging for rachamim. We should have more. How come we were so cruel? Yosef, of course, doesn't take that very seriously because he just goes on with his little game. And of course, the reason he goes on with his little game is because that's not the issue. The issue was the fact that you sold me. Not that you didn't have a big smile on your face, and say, "Don't worry, it'll be okay." I mean, that wasn't the point. And here you come around, and at the moment that you're supposed to understand that you did something wrong, all that you can think about is this: we should feel his pain, like an idiotic liberal. This is the issue. You should feel my pain. I'm not asking you to feel my pain. I'm asking you to be a human. And therefore, he does exactly this. Okay, smart Alex. You explain why I took Shimon with me and why Levi is the only one who finds the money. Huh? Okay, so think about that. So what's really going on? Why Shimon and Levi? What do you think? And there's only one possible explanation, and that is the fact that they were the guys that were involved in the sale, as opposed to all of us being involved in Chananah. So Vayomru Ish El Achiv, that Shimon and Levi, and Shimon and Levi are singled out, and are singled out in a way that actually breaks up, because Yosef is sensitive enough to understand that Shimon has no shaykhs to Kina, and that a real kanos, and that by him it's totally personal, which in the end makes him the victim of the murder by Pinchas of his Roshev and destroys his whole future, so on and so forth. Because Baruma is even in the Korbanot, Karas Kesef, they didn't want the difference in the Lashon of Shimon and the other brothers in there. And Levi, who in the end becomes mitakein everything through Pinchas, and therefore Levi's money is nisgala in the malon, which is a rembus to Gilgal, malon ashel, alayla, and that's bris milah, and that's tomech avurech, lishchasidacha. They were the only ones that were shemer bris in Mitzrayim, and all of these things that he understood mamish as a rembus on the spot. Okay. So they're thinking to themselves, okay, this of course is subliminal. There's two ways we can face this. Either it never happened, or we're going to have to acknowledge the fact that we're totally up the creek and everything that we thought was right was wrong, and that he was right, and that the whole thing was personal from the beginning. And if it's only Shimon who found his money in the Malon, Levi who found his money in the Malon, then we need to deal with it. Did we deal with it? Oh, no, we said, what has God done? A minute ago, you were thinking, you were wide open, you were very honest. Ashemim anachnu, yes, yes, yes. How did that turn into, what has God done to us? Says the child, because all of these big shots, Rabbi Yochanan, think they have all the answers and never do anything because it's personal. It's never personal. It's always truth. Yeah? Well, how come all of a sudden that was the one thing that they refused not only to acknowledge and scream at God, what's going on, but manage in the course of the time that it takes them to get back to Mitzrayim to forget that it ever happened and to be convinced that this is not what happened. What happened was that everybody's money was put into the top of their package. Now, if that isn't crazy, you want to talk about, says this little child, you want to talk about Ivelat Adam Yisalev Darko? Is there a bigger Ivelat Adam Yisalev Darko where you're here, you're wide open to the truth, and you're so insane that in the space of minutes, you're ready to be totally blind, because it can't be that, obviously. That's ridiculous. So something's wrong. God's lost it. And in the end, it never happened. So there's Rabbi Yochanan's reaction to this is, there's no way a child can know that. Which is true. There is no way that a little kid in the first grade can know that unless it happened to him. Right? Try to imagine a 5-year-old trying to figure out that a person can be so blinded that their subconscious could change them. You can't communicate with them, and no matter what you show them, they won't see it. It's not possible, such a thing, right? So he understands this is not just chutzpah. This is the kid seeing through my glass ceiling. So here's Rabbi Yochanan running around saying, Hechanat bar Lakisha, Hechanat bar Lakisha, says little boy, Hechanat bar Lakisha, you murderer. You're talking about my father, maybe? That you refuse to see the truth? It's all about you and your feelings, your godless and your chashivas? This kid needs to go. Thinks Rabbi Yochanan to himself. Comes along mommy and says, get out of here before he does the same thing to you. This is exactly what was happening then. Amazing story. Horrifying. And this is where I'll bring out the entire issue of the Pasuk in Mishloach. So that you come within a story. It's mind-boggling. Absolutely mind-boggling. And you can see this child shouldn't know this. A kid like this can't be let loose. That's the feeling that you have. Anybody feels this. This is frightening to see a child with that level of sensitivity and feelings about what happened to his life, right? Which, of course, is why his mother immediately responds on that level. She understands what this is all about. So it's amazing.
Rabbi Shimon becomes Mambi to know this, maybe because Rabbi came from Shimon.
You never know. So yeah, we are in a very tough spot if you want to talk about the direction of darkness and the way in which people are blinded by that choshech. And somehow or other, that type of choshech is the direct opposite and becomes mitukan through this unbelievable simple candle. And that simple candle is literally the opposite of the vision of the goyim, the meaninglessness of human activity. To us is mamish the meaning of every last aspect of human activity. As Mayor Simcha pointed out from Macbeth, right? Because this is out, brief candle. It's exactly the opposite of the nature of this candle. Right? Because life's but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage and then is heard no more, is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. The exact opposite of the nature of Meir's Chanuka, right? In which it signifies everything, in which there's no shadows, in which it's the girush of the entireness. It's amazing. Of course, in the opposite direction, once you get to Gan Eden, and you want to take a look at the nature of that east of Eden, Kedem LeGan Eden, that's Steinbeck in East of Eden, how he views the nature of the expression of glory. It's a beautiful, beautiful quote. He says, sometimes a kind of glory lights up the mind of a man. This is Mamish, the nature of Hod. It happens to nearly everyone. You can feel it growing or preparing like a fuse burning towards dynamite. It's a feeling of the stomach, a delight of the nerves, of the forearms. The skin tastes the air. Every deep-drawn breath is sweet. Its beginning has the pleasure of a great stretching yawn. It flashes in the brain and the whole world glows outside your eyes. A man may have lived all his life in the gray, in the land and trees of him, dark and somber. The events, even the important ones, may have trooped by, faceless and pale, and then the glory. So the cricket song sweetens the ears. The smell of the earth rises chanting to his nose. A dappling light under a tree blesses his eyes, and then a man pours outward, torrent of him, and yet he's not diminished. And I guess a man's importance in the world could be measured by the quality and number of his glories. It's a lonely thing, but it relates us to the world. It's the mother of all creativeness. and it sets each man separate from all other men. If the glory can be killed, we are lost. Amazing. It's like the Inyanim of Chanuka. Mamish. Steinbeck. Hella. East of Eden, of course. That's the Vayos Mikedim Gan. Woof. And of course, I mean, the dark night of the soul is totally the opposite in terms of the sense of the search for Or from Cheshach as a tikkun in Yisrael to the breakdown of the Giranosha, which seeks to provide the interconnectedness in that sulam, in which in Christian thought the idea of the dark night of the soul is the tsar that a person has of being unable to escape Eilam Hazeh, being still given over to Yetzer Hara, not being able to be Mischaber, the exact opposite. Right? These are like stories of St. John or what's her name, Mother Teresa, you know. If you have good sfekas in your emunah, then you're okay, because then it's the dark night of the soul. I mean, it's unbelievable. The emptiness of it, the stupidity of it, the not understanding what the whole sense about Vedas Adam is. But anyway, in the end, that Oragonis translates into tshuva and love, and the ability to translate that here is the end of the Yomim Naroyim and the tikkun of the minos of the Shnei Minim of Sasa V'Simcha of Sukkot that becomes the need for addressing Chanukah. And something deep here is tapped in the nature of Yisrael, something that can wake up, something that can be mikates. As we see, mikates samla choshech.
It's 23 hours.
There's something about the nature of darkness that relates to the kates of the resultant or, just like we have over here, mikates. Vayim mikates shnatayim yavim. That mikates wasn't something happened. That mikates goes directly into Paro Cholim. He's already dreaming. It's not okay. Now time's over. Now we could start thinking about the Ula of Yosef. It's basically in Yosef's mind. He went straight from the Chalom of the Sarofim, the Saramashkim, into the Chalom of Paro without any interruption. It's just that hiatus because of his own, turns out, his own glass ceiling, his own Ivelat Adam, just went directly back into the exact opposite, a sudden waking up. And that's Vayikat. That's exactly what happens here. What was a minute ago, it seemed to be a decree of hopeless choshech in terms of his ability to get the brothers to respond, becomes a complete turnabout from manomar, manitz tadak, into a clear-cut commitment that no matter what's going to happen, we're taking Binyamin. And the suddenness of change after the maddening hopelessness, the ongoing descent into darkness, and that's mamish, the whole Masechet Sotah. That very darkness becomes your transition into Mashiach, where no one knows what they're doing, that darkness, and even Yosef doesn't know what he's doing. And all of a sudden, out of this period in which the Anshe Amana are gone, all of a sudden everything instantly changes. And we sense that something like that goes on with Klal Yisrael, because we understand that what we're looking at, even though it appears to be so linked to this emet nederet, and so linked to this minos, religion, Vedazora, and all of the things that keep it away from tikkun, are part of something insanely profound that needs only a spark to ignite and changes almost instantly from one thing into the other, exactly as happens over here. It's very difficult to explain how you shatter that type of glass ceiling, what causes it, what is the interrelationship between the choshech and the hakotza, the waking up, which is, of course, the definition of tshuva, according to the Rambam, is the habitul and avshotechem, the uru yesheni mishenatchem, and so on. And it's fascinating that this daf in Sota, which begins, as I said, with the Haftorah from Chanuka, Mi Baz Liyom Ktanot, discusses exactly the issues that affected Yosef over here, and says Mi Baz Liyom Ktanot means What is it that is mevazvei shulchanam shel tzadikim le'atid lavo? I'm the wrong side. Sorry. Says the Gemara. It's the katnut shayaba. It's their small-mindedness. What is that small-mindedness? That they didn't really trust HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Because after all, gimi baz liyom ktanot, mi garam letzadikim shitbazbez shulchanam latid lavo katnut shayaba. Shelo eminu b'HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Because after all, kol mi sheyesh lo pat b'salo v'omer ma'u chala machar elu miktani amana. So, Yosef, who said that word, remember me to Paro, will you? That was the mi baz liyom tanot that becomes Chanuka. That's crazy. Like that level of relationship in the Gemara. I don't know what was he supposed to do exactly? What was so terrible? And that means that the Yosef himself was the one that is supposedly addressing the glass ceiling. In the end, it's Yehuda that exposes Yosef's own glass ceilings and his own incapability of dealing with the emotional attachment that he has to what it is that he's trying to achieve, which is the reason that he was lo yachol litapek. Lo yachol litapek is an emotional reaction. If you're so great and it's so impersonal, says Yehuda to him, what in the world do you think you've been doing for the past 20 years that you haven't grown up yet? After putting us through hell. And that becomes part of the amazing, the Ish Tfunot Yidlena, which of course is a play on Ein Navon V'Chacham Kamocha, in which the Ish Tfunot becomes Yehuda, as opposed to Yosef. In next week's parsha is able to be Dole, the very mind that Yosef is showing.
Sorry, Rabbi?
Yes, sir.
Yosef says, and saying there's really no reason for me to be here. Isn't that showing that he's guilty of not seeing the Yivelet? Isn't that revealing that he's not getting what's going on and why he's there? I'm totally blameless in all this, so this shouldn't be happening. It's the same type of thing.
Yeah, how do you know he isn't blameless? You only know that when Yehuda points out to him that you can't control it. If you can't control it, then it's obviously very personal and silly. So that's what you accused us of. And personal and silly. And who are you? Lo yachol litapek. Like a 17-year-old, like you were when we left you last time. Lo yachol litapek. It's an amazing, amazing interaction. It's just astounding, the levels of the awareness of the people and the weaknesses that are exposed and the way that there's no quarter given. I mean, it's just astounding. And all the details that are coming up as well. So this lost in translation, being unable to find a complete continuum that is untouched and that is tummy, is indeed the real dark night of the soul. And its need is to discover the one thing that's internal, and that is the ruchi. Lo b'chayil v'lo b'choach ki im ruchi is exactly what the message of Zechariah was. In Yosef's saying those words, there was a violation of lo b'chayil v'lo b'choach, which was Kim Zechartan. Okay, so he wants to be remembered. On Paro, 2 years in prison. Okay, but that's exactly what the story revolves around. The whole parsha is called Miketz because of that becomes the Miketz Sam Lachoshik, which becomes Chanuka, which seems grossly disproportionate to what's really going on. And the truth is that there's a profound contradiction in all of these things, and it's absolutely essential to get to the bottom of that contradiction in order to understand what's going on. Rabbeinu Baruch takes this problem of Miketz and what it is that Yosef did wrong as his theme from Mishnah. So his Akdoma to Miketz is B'tach al Hashem b'chol avavcha, b'chol libcha. The El Binatcha Al Tishayin, which causes the Yishlavon and all of the issues that come in. And then the only place that I know of that he actually quotes an entire parak from the other Rabbeinu Bach, in the Chovos Halevavos. He goes through 8 madrigas in the nature of, I don't understand. Now 1 page is missing. We have Rabbeinu Bach. Crazy. Yeah. Page 11. How did page 11 disappear? Oh, never mind. We have it. Page 11 is here. Oh, but the other thing about it. Bring me. Yeah. Bring the Rabbeinu Bachya, please, on Bamidbar. Sorry. So he goes through the 8 madrigas, quotes everything. Okay, fine. כך כתב הרב הגדול החסיד רבחיה בן פקודה בספר חובות הלבבות, and the 8th madriga, שיפתח בקדוש ברוך הוא בכל ליבו, ולא יתלה מחשבתו לסיבה מן הסיבות. Nothing can be a siba for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's all in the hands of Hashem, and that's the highest madriga. מי שהוא שלם במידת הביטחון, יש עליו לפתוח בקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא ידע לבעל הסיבות כולם, יזמין אלו הסיבות כפי שמה שיצטרך. You don't have to make sure that the sibot are taken care of. That's what it is that Yosef and Yosef, הצדיק, הפותח בקדוש ברוך הוא, לפי שביקש משר המשקים, שיהיה לו סיבה שיצא מבית האסורים, וכך clearly לא הגיע למדרגה זו של ביטחון ונענש בזה שנשאר 2 שנים יותר. This is his פתיחה, שזהו שכתוב ויהי בקץ 2 ימים. That's the whole point. Is this מבז יום קטנות? Is the breakdown in the Haftach. I have it. Thank you. Now, remarkable, in Shlach, Rabbeinu Bachya says exactly the opposite. But exactly, it's not possible to get more the opposite than this. So, Sus Muchan L'Yom Milchama V'Lashem HaTeshua. שלמה המלך יעזיר כל אדם בכתוב הזה, שיעשה כל דבר שיצטרך לעשות בדרך הטבע, כל מה שבכוחו. And only afterwards ימסור אשר ביד שמיים. And to whatever extent that he doesn't do, he's not going to be zoche to any siyata d'shmaya, right? And in order for him, al ken yitztarech sheyaseh adam pulot v'inyanim shemachanot lasig b'hem cheftzot. He has to do whatever it takes. כמי שרוצה ללכת למלחמה על אויביו, ראוי לו שיכין כלי זין וסוסים ומרכבות, שאם אינו מכין, I understand. What's he gonna do? He's gonna rely on HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's only אחר שיעשה כל שביכולתו, וישתדל בכל כוחו, and עשה בדרך הטבע, whatever is possible to do בדרך הטבע, כל הכנותיו. Only then can he be poteach sheyagia al retzono b'shel Hashem. But without these hachanot, forget it. He's lost. There's no possible way he can get anywhere. That's the whole point of being a person. Achar ken yifol hanes al kol ma'aseh hateva. That's fine. I understand. Even though Yisrael lo yitzrich in l'zot, shelo yeh nitzochon b'derech haminhag v'hateva, so what do you have to send spies for? But there's no choice in the matter. But mitzvahs haTorah l'Yisrael, you have to be mishtadel and do as if I'm not there. Achar kach l'bsor inyan l'bishat shua shalom. Mitam zatziva HaKadosh Baruch Hu l'noach, to make a teva. We think the teva is really going to help. And if you're missing anything at all, then he says, and instead he smoke al HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to help him. Guaranteed he must serve b'yad oivav. He's going to lose the war. He could have bought one more airplane. Apparently, he's not putting his whole heart into the war effort here. I understand. Yes or no? Is it usher to be Mavakish Sibot, or is it usher not to be Mavakish every last possible Sibot? Pretty striking contradiction, I would say. And of course, I mean, in the end, the story of Chanuka is a Chanuka story of war. This is the sort of the ultimate lost in translation. Here we have the first 24 days of Kislev, which are the elements of Elam Hazeh, Shem Kavod Malchusah, and then get to a Darga, the 25th day, as the Zohar says of Shema Yisrael, putting those two things together is the chibur of two completely different levels of reality that becomes one. And it's remarkable that, be careful though, sweetheart, when you're walking back there alone. I don't know, you gotta walk alone? No, I know, but okay, but, stay safe. Try to be more good on people. That's a good idea. What's that? And that's, the truth is, that the
I can't answer that question.
only the Lord knows after all of thy stadless is. Are you so tired of it? No, but I just hate to see you walk like this. What if I get you a cab? A Jewish cab?
I just order.
Just order from Get Taxi.
I could order it.
It'll be all paid for. You want it?
Yeah, but
You're not going home. That's the problem. We have a bed for you upstairs. I think. What number was he, Moshe? 25. We're getting you a taxi. מה? לא יודע, תגיע הביתה ב-12, לבד, בחורה. מה? כן, אני חושב, כדאי מאוד.
כן, תגלה את הטקסט.
אני בשעה זו רגע. It's not normal times either. Crazy. Yeah. And the truth is that, of course, the two sides of the Giranasha, as we saw, this was the relationship that we had to the Chatzar. The relationship to the Chatzar is the relationship to the Gerulas. It's the outside of the Beis HaMikdash. And it's because of that, as we saw in the first part of this year, that Nehemiah's entire work has nothing to do with Ezra. Amazing. Ezra rebuilds the Beis HaMikdash. Nehemiah rebuilds Chomot Yerushalayim. He rebuilds the Medina, as he says. It's the Yehudim and the Medina are Barah Gdolah. That's what it's been. And that is Machane Yisrael. Yerushalayim, as the city, is Machane Yisrael, which is connected to Machane and the Midbar, which is the essence of Parshas Naaseh. So it means that that's good for what is being raised.
And which involves a lot of shvatim also. A little bit different, but you have the participation of all different representatives, just like in this.
Yeah. Not quite sure why you're bringing that in here, but
It's a paradigm.
well, no, we're not exactly talking about the issues of Zos Chanukah yet, but I mean, I appreciate the involvement. And it's because of this we saw that the Rambam puts together Chanukah Purim as if they're interrelated in the halacha, even in terms of the bracha. It's because of this that there's really two stages, if you consider it. In terms of what you do, Chanukah, and what you do, Purim, and the differences in the relationships of the response of Esther, or the response of the Hashmonayim, it's two completely different worlds. One indeed is Keneged Netzach, and one is Keneged Hod. When it comes, and these, if you think about it, these are Keneged two developments of, basically in 20th century science. Purim is Keneged the understanding of the nature of chance and statistics, the meaning of the impact of statistics, which developed through the 19th and 20th centuries. And that was the essence of Purim, which is Purim. There was a completely new understanding of the relationship of HaKadosh Baruch Hu to the Olam. And what it did is it provided you a chance. And that chance, as Mordechai puts it, is umiyodem la'it kasot yigat l'malchut. This may be an opportunity. The response to that opportunity was 0 sibot, which is what she said. It makes no sense for me to go in there and beg you. All I'll do is get myself shot. What kind of ridiculous sibah is that? Which is exactly the tikkun for Yosef. What kind of ridiculous sibah is this? To say to a Mitzri to do me a favor because I did you a favor? It's the last thing he's going to do. It's idiotic. Everybody knows you go in there, you're just going to get shot. It's stupid. Okay, says the Gemara. Okay, so what are you doing? I have a slightest idea. I'm doing whatever might lead to something. I don't have a plan. So the Gemara goes through all of these issues, and Eliyahu says, they're all true. They're all possibilities. It's only about possibilities. Over here, the exact opposite. It's my response. The world gave me no opportunities. It's my kanos, it's my insistence, it's my willingness to risk my life, to change everything because I'm convinced that this is more important than my life is. Mamish opposite issues that come up. One is connected one Rabbeinu Bach, and one's connected another Rabbeinu Bach. Really weird. And as we pointed out last week, an amazing mashal for all of these issues is Rocky. The series of Rocky as a whole describes the transition from Purim to Hanukkah in the most amazing ways in which an individual learns to live first as an expression of Purim and then as an expression of Hanukkah. And Mamish, according to these Yesodot of the Rabbeinu Bach, it's just unbelievable. The whole first Rocky is about chance. I'm going to give him a chance. This is a guy who did not position himself for that chance, was not looking for this chance, did not work for this chance, but he's going to be given a chance. And after all, the American dream is that anybody can come out of nowhere. All said the cynicism, of course, by the promoters, but anybody can come out of nowhere. And who knows, you too may be champion. And indeed, in trying to pray, he's not interested when you're crazy. I'm getting myself smashed. I don't know anything about fighting. Did a couple of fights, lost 40 fights. I'm going to go up against the champion. I'm going to walk out of there smashed to pieces. And people are explaining to him, as Mickey explains to him, you don't understand. Nobody ever gets a chance like this. This is like the chance that nobody has even in a lifetime. So what are you going to say? You're just going to ignore it? You never know.
He was Jewish, Mickey.
Of course.
Rocky 3 is his Kaddish.
Yeah, of course.
Maybe Mickey is Mordechai.
We're getting there. We're getting to Mickey in Rocky 3. Hold on. I don't even know if you're up to date. You probably haven't even seen Creed yet. I don't know what I can even talk to you. Just a beginner. Fine. So he's ready. He's going to go ahead. He doesn't believe that he can win. Whatever. He's not even interested in winning. He's just taking advantage of the opportunity. Maybe he can go the distance, right? Okay, so he's zocher to give them. This is Netzach. It comes out of nowhere. The world presents opportunities for you, And it requires nothing of the planning and the elements of, he doesn't learn how to fight. He doesn't know how to fight, basically, but he wants to go to the distance. He's a very low-class fighter. And going the distance, he wants to survive, basically. In Rocky, too, there's a tremendous change in it, because first, people are not really convinced. His wife is not convinced that this is what he should be doing. He doesn't sense that this is anything about him, that this is something that he can achieve. And they literally try to sell him into Avdus. It becomes like he sweeps the ring, he carries the water, they're making fun of him. No, Rocky, how's the sweeping going today? It's mamish, like if you don't have the people around you believing in him, so he goes to the lowliest jobs. And then there's this change in which essentially, once his wife tells him, you go out there, you can win, all of a sudden he becomes the equivalent of a Yosef. He doesn't have the talents, he has the chen. He doesn't have the work, as Yehuda points out in the end, but he has the passion. And wherever he goes, everybody's shouting, Rocky, Rocky, climbing the walls, right? Exactly what it is that Yosef is. And everybody is supporting him. And once again, the girls are climbing the walls as they did here. I need the handshake of page 5. Of course, I myself made a mess of everything, but it's all right. So, come on. Take this. Take this. Thank you. Let me see. No, this is the wrong. This is Vayesha 5. I'm looking for the Kate's 5. And this is Tavshin and Aleph. So it's not this. Look in the that green thing. In the blue bag from IKEA, maybe.
Oh, it's in the.
Maybe, I don't know. Otherwise, I don't know. Here's 5. I got it. It's okay. Okay. Yeah. Moshe had this idea of playing things on YouTube, the scenes, but I don't think it's such a good idea unless you're a bookie in the movie. But he believes essentially that the passion is enough. Right? He's going to put his heart into it to such an extent. And with that amazing passion, he does win. He wins with this incredible commitment and staying power of the ne'emanos to this is what it is that I want to do. And he thinks that with that, he's already achieved it. Now he's been zeichet, an expression of himself. That's where he finds himself in Rocky 3. He's won all of his fights, and Mickey has arranged for him, it turns out, very easy fights. He should retain the championship. He doesn't put in any work. It's no work, it's tremendous, it's fun. And his own glass ceiling is that he cannot believe that he isn't the champion. And he went and he asked the first guy, did you really give me all that you had? You know, there he was in the hospital trying to recover. You got to answer me this one, but did you really try to kill me? You know, so I really gave you everything that I had. Okay. So even when Mickey tells him, you need to understand this guy is going to shatter you. This guy, Clubberline, Mr. T. I mean, he's going to turn you into mincemeat. You don't understand. You're not a fighter. You're a joke. You think you're in a circus. It's like, you know, Mamish, I mean, the fun that he makes of it, you know, you're a tomato. What shaykhs do you have to Clubber Lang? And he is so convinced that he's already been zeiches. Mamish mavakish leishem b'shalva. I know who I am. Don't have to worry. And you know, what is he consider? What's the work that he's putting in? It literally is like a circus. Everybody's going around buying Rocky shirts and yelling Rocky, Rocky. And he's like with one hand, you know, he's doing this, and the champ is working out over here, and it's Mamish. Originally, Mickey says, like, I don't know, well, how are we gonna get anywhere in this circus? You can't defeat this guy. It's ridiculous. And it's so clear to him that this is what he is. Then in the end, Mickey says to him, I'm so proud of you. As if he believes that he's really going to win. He's not no shyness to win, this guy. And the only moment that he realizes that it's all a lie to himself is when he's shattered to pieces by this guy. He has no shyness. Bechlar is totally defeated by him. And then he loses, he asks me, was I ever capable of defeating this guy? And this is after Mickey's told him. He says he's proud of him after he already warned him. He keeps asking, why don't you want me to fight him? I want you to fight him because he's going to kill you. And could I ever have won against him? He says, yeah, 2 years ago, you were dangerous. And now you've become civilized. You're not dangerous anymore. You're not doing anything. I'm putting in anything. So what? You don't have a chance. And he manages to persuade him that he does. And that's what we discussed the week before about the eye of the tiger, which he discovers. He has to go back to the raw, and he has to be out in the same LA that the guy that he had defeated, that Apollo had been from. And as the song that it talks about, your passion became what you thought was glory. It's mamish this transition. And it became meaningless. It takes him back to the streets, and nothing helps. So he can't put it in his heart because he doesn't believe that it was more than luck. And believing that it's luck, as he puts it as so, I'm the same bum and the same nothing that I always was. Until his wife finally tells him, explains to him, that he shouldn't even think about winning. It has nothing to do with winning. It has to do with who he is, that he has to gain himself. That's all it's about. And therefore, if he's not going to do it, then for everything that he's done in his life, he's going to remain a bum forever. He's going to lose everything that he ever had. And that's when he realizes that it doesn't really matter. But this is what he has to do. This is mamish keneged the Anochi Arvenu. The Anochi Arvenu means I can't guarantee that Binyamin's going to come back in one piece. I can only tell you that it's more important than my own life and than my own olamah, but that I can tell you. Because this is what I care about. If it's what I care about, then I'm risking everything for it. And that's what he understands here. I don't care if I win, and I can't guarantee that I'll win. But I know that this is what I need to do in order to be me. Because this is my dream. And it's amazing because the contrast to this clubber guy, this Kulo Gaiva, and to Mickey, and to Rocky, is that Rocky always sits and davens before he goes. He's sitting there davening, of course in the bathroom, but all right, not all that. But maybe it was a Malcolm who's kosher with feel. I don't know, it was the outside. And this other guy is going around with the gaiva, and I'm the best, and I'm the greatest, and throughout the entire thing, that difference ends up becoming a tremendous shlemus in him, but it's noyea, and the movie brings this out, every possible ishtatus. Running a little bit slower than he could run is going to kill him. Lifting those weights one time less than he could is going to kill him. It's not shaykh not to do whatever it's possible to do as a human being in order to be able to defeat this guy. And that's what he does. And the first one, where he wasn't mishtadel and he just responds to what's given to him, he ends up losing himself completely and believing that it was just a chance, but it wasn't me. What did it have to do with me? Now, those inyanim are exactly the distinctions that take place in Klal Yisrael between those two periods. The Baz Yom K'tanot is after the Mesa Purim. Baz Yom K'tanot. So what really do we have out of this? So we have Esther, and we have Esther's child, and we have the proclamation of Koresh, and we have the startings of the Beis Hamikdash, and it's a joke. It was just basically a freak. I mean, what was all of that about? And as the Gemara says, it's Pekida B'Alma, that whole period. And the development into something that provides a derech of Aveda, discovering oneself is the Ki'im Ruchi. What is that Ruchi? The Ruchi that allows you to live a dream that starts with Yaakov Avinu, a dream that starts with Chanuka, a dream that is in the giving of the Shem Yisrael, and ultimately the dream of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, my Bereshis, of Bereshis Baruchim, B'Shvil Yisrael, Shani Bereshis, and Lekach Ma'aseh Yiblam, and so on and so forth. So this amazing difference, the need to discover one's own ruah, the fact that the loss of belief in something and the loss of your connection to something is the opposite of the Hidah and Hala of Chanuka. Points to one amazing thing we spoke about in terms of the Maharal. The Maharal points out that the idea of Kofalim Harchigigis, and the Kviyas Teva that HaKadosh Baruch Hu says that you should have said Atatit. But the reason that there's a Kofalim Harchigigis is because of the clarity that the individual has that this is unavoidable. And if it hadn't been that they had recognized there's no way for me to live without this, then it would have meant that Torah all along was a volunteer position. And if it's a volunteer position, it's like the Chisard of an Mitzvah V'yasa. It all comes down to me. Therefore, it was essential that they saw, no, it doesn't come down to you. It comes down to reality, you idiot. This is all that matters. But you would really walk away? Would you walk away? No? So you had no choice. The response to having no choice is what Kviyas Teva was about, which of course points to what appears to be an impossible situation. If the idea of Kviyat Tova is the unwillingness to face reality, then you wouldn't have seen the Kofalim Archegigis in the first place. To whatever extent you're aware of Kofalim Archegigis, you're only aware of it because of the fact that you consider it to be an existential, unavoidable reality. So then how in the world can you turn away from it? Well, it makes no sense. And if you don't see it, then there's nothing that's going to be cool for you. If you do see it, then there's no reason why you should feel kfiyah. You should say, wow, what an amazing thing that I was able to actually involve myself in a reality. Wow. And of course, the answer is that the closer you get to something which is real, the more you are tempted to make it yours. Because that way, indeed, it's not a challenge. And how do you make it yours? You co-opt it. You can co-opt it by making it part of your religion. Torah is real, and therefore we must have Torah. Now, Kindalach, let me tell you about Torah. Kad Yasfun Yisrael Yaskun V'Yas. Now you know what Torah is? Doesn't it feel good? Zmira Sayu Lechukecha. Isn't that great? You feel warm and cozy inside. What is this, a circus? Says HaKadosh Baruch Hu to David. That Divrei Torah is mires? You nuts? Arinu Machshil Chabadav Afir Tinok Bed Yomo Yodea. And ridiculous business is this. It's of course the holy need of religion. To make things palatable when they're real. Because when they're real, they're too painful. And they're not up to you. But when they're palatable, and they're cozy, and they're fun, they're completely up to you. That's the Chen Mokom HaYoshvav, which is all part of the Mesechet Sotah. Part of the Chen, yeah, feel comfortable with it. And of course, that's the modern code word. What you don't feel comfortable with is not part of the ritual. I'm not comfortable with that. You ever heard those words? That's the modern word. I'm not comfortable with that idea, and therefore the idea doesn't exist. I'm not comfortable with that mitzvah, so the mitzvah doesn't exist. I'm not comfortable with that relationship doesn't exist. Whatever you're comfortable with, that's what it's all about. What happened to the Kofalim Charchakiyas? I don't know. It's been absorbed into my comfort. And the other way, of course, is straight out minus. Because minus doesn't deny something, it redefines it so that it becomes completely academic. Now it's at arm's breadth. It doesn't make any difference to me. Can't make a difference to me because it's cold and open to any analysis that I can make of it. And I can give you lectures and lectures of how important the Torah is and how real it is, and therefore it will end up meaning nothing to me. Again, complete loss of any sense of intimacy. So these were the issues, of course, that Chanuka needed to come to address. In discovering your own glass ceiling, in discovering your own self, your own soul, and which is the only solution to the sense of darkness, you will always note one thing, and that's brought out in this parsha. Nobody denies something that they don't care about. And nobody is jealous of something that isn't profoundly connected to them. If you didn't care about it, you wouldn't be jealous about it. And ultimately, all of this jealousy cannot really be based on a person's search for davar she'eno shalo and simply use it. Because the eno shalo, which are not part of your dream, you wouldn't really be jealous about either. You would be happy. What do I care? It's wonderful. You see somebody win a sporting event that you couldn't compete. That's great. Everybody, the whole world is looking, and everybody is clapping, and everybody is shouting, Rocky, Rocky. And we're with you, and we're running with you, and it's wonderful, and it's beautiful, and you're us, wow, it's great to see. And if chas v'shalom, the person slips on the tight wire or breaks a leg when they're, oh, it's horrible. Oh my gosh. They were so close to winning and they won't understand. What do you care? Of course you care. Because every person's dream is the essential carbon of the Nisaean. This is your dream. This is your vision. It's unique. I want you to win. I want to see what you can do. What a tragedy that you weren't able to do it. And everybody's, oh no. This is what goes on all the time in the Olympics and sporting events and so on. So what is this that all of a sudden now? No. Schadenfreude. I don't want him to win. Why should he have it? Something that I could have. You have a relationship with Yaakov. That I'm jealous about. Well, why are you jealous? Because ultimately your dream is to be able to have a shaykhus to the nature of Yisrael. And you feel that I took a shaykhus that could have been yours. But in the end, to whatever extent, what you really care about is what you ostensibly walked over a moment ago, and that was you were willing to, and this is how Yosef puts it to them, what's the problem? I don't understand. Didn't you get rid of one of the boys? What's wrong if the bucket is thrown back into the well and the string goes with the bucket? So he'll get over Yosef, he'll get over Binyamin. Why can't you go back to your father in peace? What am I missing here, gentlemen? And that's the thing that pushes them over the edge. Because, of course, that's the whole point, and that's precisely what they've been hiding from. And that's exactly what their glass ceiling was. So this is what we really want. And Yehuda, when he explains this to him, that's the moment that he realizes the game is over. I was ma'arev that nar. I gave my life because it was more important to me that Binyamin be there with Yaakov than that I should live in Olam Hazeh world. It's an amazing insight. Once he heard that, there was nothing more to say. Because at that moment, the kina becomes kanos, and he knows that Yehuda will completely destroy it. Because this is my life. So that even a Rocky can stand up to a clubber who's a Meshuggah. He's like a piece of iron that makes no difference. The moment that the Kohanim recognize that this is us, this is our dream, this is what we have to give to the world, win or lose, die or live, this is what we're doing. I don't care if it's the entire Greek army, bring them on. Exactly what Yehuda says. I don't care if it's the whole country, bring them on, makes no difference. Because the moment that that level of the insight of Or is Nizgala, to a person is impossible to compete with. It's a direct expression of the Ruach of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There's no contradiction in the Rabbeinu Bachya. It's like that amazing Zohar that describes the different malachim of Yisrael. You know, this will be the last measure I'm going to be able to go. Let me just get to the last page here. Yeah. Zohar says, if I have any, is there page 12? Yeah, there was a page. Yeah, where's the page? Oh, well, it was there, but it's not there anymore. You know how it is. It's funny. Page 10. Page 10. See? Yeah, it's page 10. I like it. So the Zohar says, listen, the thing that messes everything up is the things that you hide from. The things that you hide from are the Avona Keva Yisubein. Those are the things you trample over all the time and you're not even aware of. And David HaMelech knew that. So when he wanted to do something, he was ready to fight. And he was ready to fight till the bitter end. I'm going to catch them, and I'm not coming back until they're finished. I'm going to destroy them. Why? My timer. Because he was so aware of those issues, of the Avona Keva Yisubeni, that he was able to do that. Now, Asa couldn't quite get it that far. Even though he was Mefashvesh and his Chatoim, he was not as aware as David. And because of that, he was willing to chase his enemies, but he waited for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to kill him. He couldn't really do it, right? But you're the fame Asa v'Hama Shirimo, they chase them, and what happens? Vayigof Hashem et HaKushim b'fnei Asa. HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes them. What? I don't know. Fine. Like David, it says, Vayakim David mi'anoshef al erev l'mochrotam. Asa is rodef after them, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu destroys them. Now, Yehoshaphat, he also wanted to get rid of his enemies, but he says, I don't really know how to chase them, and I don't know how to kill them either. I'll tell you what we're going to do. I'll sing, and then HaKadosh Baruch Hu will take care of them. So he sings. Ube'et echelu b'rino tihila Natan Hashem ha'arvim al bnei Ammon u'Moav v'arseir v'yinakfu. Chizkiyahu had it tougher. He said, I don't know. I ain't worth nothing. I don't know how to sing. I don't know how to chase. I don't know how to fight. I don't know anything. I'm going to go to sleep and let HaKadosh Baruch Hu take care of them. So, sure enough, Maksiv, Vayiba Laila Hu, Vayitze Malach Hashem Vayak B'Machal Ashur 185,000 people are killed. Vayashkimu Baboka, they wake up in the morning and everybody's dead. I mean, this is crazy because it's going downhill. But this sure looks like it's going uphill. What do I need to be Mishtama? What do I need to do? I'll go to sleep and HaKadosh Baruch Hu will rescue the world. This is amazing Zohar. That we think, wow, what am I drinking? Poor David had to be right there. Easy. And me, I don't have to do anything. I go to sleep. Nebach, the others have to sing and daven. I got no kind of singing and davening. I'm tired. Let HaKadosh Baruch Hu take care of the whole thing. So this is, how is this possible? So you see that indeed the relationship, this amazing Chiddush of Rabbeinu Bachya that we've spoken of before, the amazing relationship of Ishtadlus and Bitocha, is that according to Rabbeinu Bachya, the point of the creation of Adam is to act within nature. Why? Because those sibot that he acts with are the way that HaKadosh Baruch Hu achieves the ends. You understand? It's not that there's two separate things. It's not that I do something and then HaKadosh Baruch Hu does his thing. No. It's that the Hishtadlus is the Gilui of the Ratzon Hashem. So that in the Kalim that I create, I am providing a mokum for the Shekhinah in the Eilam. Therefore, every airplane is what is used by HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the war. If you don't care, I'm not there. That's the point. If this has to happen with some miracle, you can forget it because you got nothing out of it. You performed no Aveda, you brought no Shekhinah into the world, and there I am again, the Deus Ex Machina, with my voices off stage, and you feeling like a total jerk, and that's all you'll have out of life. Is that what you want? Or is this about our making this world work together? So in the end, Hanukkah is precisely the Gilui of the potential of doing something that makes a difference and allows the Shekhinah to take care of the problem of the Giranasha for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Where is my makom translated from the Beis Hamikdash Shamala on earth? What is this Adam for that was supposed to be able to be mispallowed for Geshami and make the world work? Where is he? Involved in his persona? An idiot. It's like he's not even there. I have nobody to talk to. It's just Choshech. Sure, I can make it work. What do I need a world that I make work for? I understand this was supposed to be some type of silly computer simulation. I put in the code and they go, I didn't play games. In the Gemara here. It's like the Basco. Yeah. That's what the Gemara says here inside it. You know.
The frustration.
Yeah. There was a Basco that would come out and said, yeah, there's somebody here that's Roy. This is the previous daf inside. That talks about the way that the gradual loss of the Shekhinah, this is a Chagay Malachi, says the Gemara. But with that end there, the Viyam Achronim, and then, but Adayin Oyim Mishtamshim of Basco. The time is wrong. Place is wrong. Somebody could have been Zeichet Ashras Shekhinah like Ezra. Nor is it Roy Lakaf. Tremendous frustration. So, of course, the stupidity, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu to Yosef, the stupidity, asking a stupid guy like that to be the Siva of what? I should save you from jail because you have a Mitzri that's going to use protection to get you out of jail. You must be crazy. I need you to talk. Nothing. There was a dream. Did you tell him the truth about the dream? Is he going to be in front of Paro? You think you're making things work better by telling him? You got to tell him. Who do you need to tell him for? He's not. Who said he's supposed to do Ishtav? No, no, that's to be B'chapes Sibot. That's not Ishtav. They were the ones who gave up on Ishtav. But if you're going to do Ishtav, it can't be to be B'chapes Sibot. What are you doing? You're increasing the chances? That's what we're looking for? We're not looking for chances. We're looking for an actual mechanism. I need you to speak to him. You speak to me. It's that beautiful medrash. It's like I'm the marshal of the king. You're writing me letters asking me to return your car that I needed for the war. And all of a sudden I find out you're in touch with the bureaucrats. You're trying to go behind my back. You know what? I was going to give you back your car. And now I've decided to keep your car.
But in Esther, Mordechai did tell Esther.
And Esther told Mordechai, you're a jerk.
But yet she did go.
No, she did not. He told her to go and beg. She didn't go beg. She said, a stupid thing. What would I go beg? What do I need to beg him? I will just be there. That's what I will do. And take advantage of the opportunity. What will happen? I have no idea. What's your plan, Esther? Don't know. That's what Gemara says. Could be anything. Anything might happen. Maybe he'll kill me. But he'll kill Haman with me because he'll think we're making out. I don't know.
care.
That's something else. Showing care is something else. That's not Ishtar.
What should you have done?
Nothing, I told you. Nothing. It's done. There's nothing to do. That's exactly what the Rabbeinu Bach is. You don't cert. All right, listen. If what? Then the guy would have walked into Paro and have said, listen, I can help out here. Paro could have been calling 2 years earlier. You think he answered Paro because Yosef talked to him? He did his best not to say anything about Yosef. You know, it's a nar, Ivri, you don't want him. Yeah, exactly. He worked on being Shochet. Who needs him? Who wants him? I need a nar Ivri here? Are you kidding? The more I see his crazy thoughts that I should talk to Paro about this jerk, get out of here. Of course I won't talk, but I think it's the opposite. This is Ishtadlus. This is stupidity. That's what it is. It's searching for something that might help you. You've turned the whole thing into something personal. Instead of wanting to provide a mokum for HaKadosh Baruch Hu and a sense of Aveda, it's all about your silliness, your insecurities, and mi bas liyot ktanot. That's exactly. Stay in jail. That's the whole point. Let's not belabor it. It's late. We'll talk afterwards. So the issue over here becomes the discovery of the nature of Aveda itself that is linked to the becoming a chelik of the Gilui of that or. That's the point. And if you can learn to take the inyanim of Hanukkah and recognize that the slightest thing and that everything ultimately that you look at is nothing but or. That's all that it honestly is. The difference between Purim and the understanding that the nature of reality is built around statistics and evolutionary processes and things that nobody has to control is Purim. But the understanding of Hanukkah is understanding the nature of the underlying interrelationship of energy and all of its possible formulations, much deeper than just a question of chance. It's not chance. It's the nature of how things are. The interrelationship between forces and the results of that in terms of the formation of stars and galaxies and the universe as we see it leads to silly things like the chances of evolution, which ultimately obviously works out with those same forces over immense periods of times. But the underlying mathematical relationships of those forces is pure or. And that's a much more profound discovery. It means that everything that you're dealing with is, in the end, the underlying forces of my separations. Once that's true, the same way that people are so despoiled with E equals MC squares, oh, you should have seen the headlines in the New York Times with the explosion of the first atom bomb and so on, unleashing the forces of creation. The feeling that now anything is possible. Nobody can stand up to us. Everything is biyadenu. But that's really what the Aragonos is doing, 1,000 times more, right? So that Gila is there's nothing that stands between you and the entire power of Bereshis. And that's what Steinbeck was describing, this feeling of just can gush forth out of you and you're not diminished. And that's exactly what the whole Indian of the Smicha becomes, the idea of Moshe Rabbeinu being able to pour out, so to speak, and it's the marshal to a ner that is matik another ner, and that ner isn't diminished. So the exact opposite of the sense of emptiness, which people feel, in the alienation that they feel when they're involved in the smallness, the cutness that can't make it through to really believe that it's going to make a difference. So in the end, it's hypocrisy. In the end, it's a lie. It's the bittul of Anshe Amana, which is the end of Masechet Sotah. When it comes to a point that all of those barriers are broken in an individual's life, and they come to recognize the hypocrisy that they've bought into, the comforts that they need, the belief systems that they've taken on themselves, which they know deep down are idiotic and mean nothing to anybody, and it ultimately mean nothing to them. The instant of the transition is simply being loyal to the things that you always wanted. That's why there was kina. That's why it was personal. It was personal because of the tanot, not because there was any confusion. You thought it was confusion. But you were creating. It was the Ivelat Adam Yisalev Darko that created the confusion. In reality, it was Yesharim Darkei Hashem Tzadikim Yelchabam B'Poshim Yikashlubam. All you need to do is to be open enough to see the stupidities of yourself and creating with your own folly, your own downfall. It's an extremely, extremely powerful person. In the end, becomes a gilui of complete Anochi Arveno, which every Kohen that fought there in the Hashmonaim felt. And I don't care, and I don't think, and I don't plan about the outcome, but I use every possible ishtadlus, because each act that I do, I know is another gilui of the Makom of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the Yoel. That level of Avaida can be a Beis HaMikdash Shlishi, because it's then you're talking about things that are much deeper and become the Mekorot for Korbanos. Not that you have this nice, warm and fuzzy feeling about, let the animal take the place of my, whatever other things that whatever you're thinking, even the deepest relationship to the Avodas HaKorbanos is still going to be limited to biological evolution. The utilization of Shalcha Gadol Mishalahem, and that it's never bottled, and that the ore is infinitely greater than the meaning of any other Avodah or all of the Korbanos Hanasiyim, is the thing that is Ma'achim, that integrates and that makes possible a future that is not given over into the hands of Hefsid ever, and where Ta'arovis is never necessary. Havdalah is not necessary for ending Ta'arovis. There cannot be a Ta'arovis when something is Miseifa Elam Va'at Seifa. That is what humanity gradually wants to achieve. Wants to know Sofa Olam Sofa. Wants to see where things fit with Sofa Olam Sofa. Everybody wants that. And once upon a time, nobody could even dream that such a thing was within the realm of human activity. That has happened in one generation. That is an unbelievable thing, in which every child wants to put a bottle into a recycling.
It's
rack,
0 hours.
and it makes a difference to them. What difference does it make? Your bottle is going to make a difference. Your candle is going to make a difference. Of course my bottle is going to make. What child doesn't believe their bottle is going to make a difference? That you can imagine a matzah in which an entire planet is dedicated to cleaning up. It's unbelievable. These are things that are b'haseg yad. And they're all expressions of this idea of the original or of the closeness of the chashivas of the Maisa Adam to Maisa Bereshis. This is what I'm waiting for. I'm waiting for this level of responsibility, this level of integrity, this level of feeling yourself as being the essence of what this universe is. Then you become part of the light. But every aspect that personalizes things, limits the light, introduces Chosha, all in your own, it's all in your own head, this Chosha. And it's all self-limiting, because the end result is that the light is what it's made out of, and the Chosha is what the real virtual aspect of the Olam is, which you can't go on creating forever. It's too much work to conduct so many lives for so long, and that's why they disappear. You look around you, and that's exactly what's happening. It's just too complicated to keep up all the line. In the end, it just falls apart because it's so obviously ridiculous. And because of that, the Kate Sam Choshech is a tremendously encouraging thing, in which the very darkness that the Masechet describes is Bismaneno being experienced by us as an ongoing development of Or in the context of a darkness all around that is cracking to pieces of its own weight of lies and hypocrisies. So may we be Zocher, Be'ezras Hashem, by next Hanukkah to be able to see the Or in all of its beauty, implications, without any limitations.
Amen.
Now onwards to Rocky and Creed, but that will have to wait probably till next year's Hanukkah.
We could just go off to the theaters.
It's a little too late now. They're showing it.
So is it possible to see the end of the Masechet as like the Ha'ika Ana that Rav Yosef says about anivos essentially as an avoda that in other words in terms of the discovery.
Thank you for your questions.
Of the Gilui of the Or for us to be able to come back and undo all of those failures.
I don't know. Could be. I don't know. Nothing that's Mechayev it.
No, okay.
That's very pretty. Yes, you're at me again, huh? Here I thought I was thanking you for the questions and you'd go safely to sleep.
I'm still stuck on that problem because Yosef
Why?
is Mordechai in the Hebrew, right? You still remember his lesson in so what happens then?
Go to. I don't know about Gilgul. That only the Rabbeinu Bachya talks about in terms of the Asura.
If so,
No,
it
let's
makes a
not
lot of
talk
sense.
about Gilgul. We have to talk about the Pshat first. No? That's the real MS is to be this way. But it's clear that there's two lines. Pshat is the deepest end.
No, because there's a lesson to be learned there. Because the first time Yosef